The woman walked past the SEAL team without slowing down. Her uniform was torn at the shoulder, darkened by dry blood that had soaked deep into the fabric. One boot dragged slightly, leaving a faint scuff mark on the concrete floor of the forward operating base. Her face was pale, lips pressed tight, eyes focused straight ahead as if pain were nothing more than background noise. And O1 stopped her. They laughed instead that a couple of the SEALs leaned against a crate near the mess corridor, weapons slung loose, confidence written into every relaxed movement. They had just returned from a successful operation and the adrenaline still buzzed in their voices. "Did you see that?" One of them muttered, smirking. "Looks like she barely made it through basic," another replied. "Wrong hallway, sweetheart." A third added louder, not even trying to hide it. The woman didn't turn, didn't flinch, didn't acknowledge them at all. She kept walking. That, more than anything, annoyed them that I in their world. Hesitation meant weakness, and weakness demanded comment. The SEALs were used to being watched, admired, sometimes feared. They weren't used to being ignored, especially not by a wounded soldier who looked like she should have been in the medical bay. Not walking unassisted through a restricted corridor point, one of them stepped forward, blocking her path. "Hey," he said, voice casual but edged with mockery. "Medical's the other way. Or are you trying to prove something?" Only then did she stop. Slowly, deliberately, she raised her eyes and looked at him. Up close, they could see the exhaustion etched into her face. Weeks without proper sleep, dust ground into her skin, a thin cut along her cheekbone that had already scarred. But there was something else too. Something cold, controlled, calculating. She spoke quietly. "I know where I'm going." The SEAL chuckled. "Sure you do." She shifted her weight, pain flashing briefly across her expression before disappearing again. If she noticed the blood seeping through the bandage under her sleeve, she didn't show it. "Move," she said. The word wasn't loud. IT wasn't angry. IT was final. That earned another laugh from the group. "Easy there," someone said. "You're injured. Don't hurt yourself trying to play tough." If they had paid closer attention, they might have noticed how other soldiers nearby had gone quiet. How a communications officer had frozen mid-step. How a pair of Army Rangers at the far end of the hall had straightened instinctively, eyes locked on the woman with something close to disbelief. But the SEALs didn't notice. They were too busy underestimating her. "You new here?" the one blocking her asked. "Because you don't look like you belong anywhere near this wing." Her gaze flicked briefly to the insignia on his chest, then to the weapon hanging at his side, then back to his eyes. "I belong exactly where I am," she replied. There was no fear in her voice. No uncertainty, just certainty. Something about that made the SEAL's smile fade slightly. Still, pride pushed him forward. "Listen," he said, lowering his voice like he was offering advice. "Go get patched up before you collapse and make a mess someone else has to clean." That was the moment. The woman reached into her jacket. Not fast, not slow, precise. The SEAL's hand twitched toward his weapon before his brain caught up, but she wasn't drawing a gun. She pulled out a folded set of orders, worn thin at the edges, stained with dust and blood. She held them up. "You're standing in my way," she said evenly. "And you don't have the clearance to do that." The corridor was silent. "Now, point," one of the SEALs scoffed. "Orders? Anyone can carry paper," another said. "Doesn't mean a damn thing." The woman looked past them, not at them, like they were already irrelevant. "Last chance," she said. The SEAL blocking her stepped aside half an inch, just enough to show he wasn't intimidated. "Or what?" She met his eyes again. "Or you'll regret it." The words weren't a threat. They were a statement of fact. Before he could respond, a voice cut through the tension. "Clear the corridor." Every head snapped toward the sound. That a senior officer stood at the far end of the hallway, posture rigid, face unreadable. His eyes weren't on the SEALs, they were on the wounded woman. The SEALs instinctively straightened, recognizing rank instantly. But confusion flickered across their faces when they noticed something else. The officer wasn't angry, he looked concerned. "Now," he repeated. The SEALs moved out of the way without another word. The woman walked forward, passing them at close range. None of them spoke. None of them laughed now. As she passed, One of them noticed the small patch sewn onto the inside of her torn jacket, a symbol most soldiers would never see, let alone where his breath caught. "That's not possible," he whispered. She heard him. Still, she didn't stop. The officer fell into step beside her, lowering his voice. "You should be in medical." "I will be," she replied. "After this." He nodded once. No argument. No questioning. Behind them, the SEALs stood frozen, watching as the two disappeared through a secure door that required multiple levels of clearance to open. "What the hell was that?" One finally muttered, and one answered. Minutes later, the truth began to spread. The woman they had mocked wasn't lost. She wasn't weak. She wasn't out of place. She was the reason half the base was still standing. Hours earlier, her unit had been pinned down during an extraction gone wrong. Communications were jammed. Air support delayed. She had taken a round while pulling a wounded soldier to safety, then kept fighting, directing fire, coordinating movement, refusing evacuation until everyone under her command was out. She had walked nearly 2 kilometers on a damaged leg to deliver intel in person when digital channels failed, and the orders she carried. They outranked every man who had laughed at her. That be why the time the SEAL team was summoned to the briefing room, the atmosphere had changed completely. Whispers followed them. Eyes tracked their movement. They took their seats, confident habits suddenly feeling heavy. The door opened. The woman entered, cleaned up now, but still visibly injured. Fresh bandages. A medical brace beneath her uniform. She walked with the same controlled determination as before. The room snapped to attention. Every SEAL stood. Some of them finally understood. Some of them already regretted everything. She took her place at the front, eyes scanning the room. Not with anger, not with pride, but with something far more dangerous, disappointment. "My name doesn't matter," she began. "What matters is what happens next." No one interrupted. One dared. And somewhere outside the room, the base prepared for consequences that none of the SEALs had seen coming. If you're enjoying this powerful military story, welcome to Her Brave Stories, a channel dedicated to fearless women, hidden strength, and moments that change everything. Subscribe so you never miss a story like this, and comment below to tell us where you're watching from, your country, your city, or your base. The briefing room felt smaller than it had minutes before. One sat down again after standing. The SEALs remained rigid, boots planted, shoulders squared, eyes forward. The woman stood at the head of the table, one hand resting lightly on the edge, as if it were the only thing anchoring her to the room. The fresh bandage at her shoulder had already begun to darken again, but she ignored it. A large digital map lit up behind her, projecting terrain most of the men recognized instantly. Mountain passes, dry riverbeds, villages reduced to coordinates and threat markers. "You were briefed on Operation Iron Passage," she said calmly. "What you were not briefed on was what went wrong." She tapped the table once. The map shifted. "This is where my unit was inserted." Another tap. "This is where we were compromised." The room was silent except for the low hum of electronics. One of the SEALs, the same one who had blocked her in the hallway, felt his jaw tighten. He remembered her eyes then. The same steady focus she had now. "No hositación. No need to impress. We lost comms 12 minutes into the operation," she continued. "Satellite interference, intentional. Enemy anticipated our route and timing. That means intel was leaked or intercepted." Murmurs rippled through the room, quickly silenced by her raised hand. "I took a round here," she said, gesturing briefly to her shoulder, while extracting Corporal Hayes. 2 fractured ribs, torn muscle. Didn't matter. She let that sink in, because leadership doesn't stop when you're bleeding. No one moved. No one breathed too loudly. She turned, eyes locking onto the SEAL team one by one. "You were deployed as rapid response support. You didn't arrive." A SEAL commander finally spoke, voice measured. "Airspace was denied. We were ordered to hold." "I know," she replied. "Those orders came from the same channel that fed false intel." The commander stiffened. "Are you suggesting—" "I'm stating," she cut in gently, "that someone wanted us isolated." The map changed again, highlighting a narrow escape route. "We broke contact using this pass." Lost 2 good soldiers. Saved everyone else because we adapted. She paused. I walked here because the data I carried couldn't risk transmission. Her gaze dropped briefly to the papers she placed on the table. Bloodstained. Creased. These orders, she said, authorize a full internal review. Effective immediately. The weight of that hit hard. The SEAL who had laughed earlier felt heat crawl up his neck. He had dismissed her as injured, as out of place. As someone who didn't belong near powered, he was wrong. The door at the back of the room opened again. 3 high-ranking officers entered. Generals. Every person in the room snapped to attention instinctively. The woman didn't. They stopped behind her. Proceed, one of them said. She nodded once. This review includes command decisions, operational delays, and conduct, she said, voice steady. Including how we treat our own. Her eyes flicked briefly toward the SEALs. Not accusing, just acknowledging. You don't know who you're passing in the hallway, she continued. You don't know what they've survived, what they've sacrificed, and you don't get to decide their worth based on how they look when they're still standing after hell. Silence pressed down on the room like gravity. The SEAL who had blocked her path swallowed hard. She finished the briefing with precision. Timelines. Failures. Corrective actions. Not once did her voice waver. When she was done, she stepped back. That's all. The generals nodded. One of them spoke. You're dismissed. The SEALs turned to leave, but the woman's voice stopped them. One more thing. They froze. She met their eyes again, the pain finally visible now that the mission was over. I don't need apologies, she said. I need professionals who remember that strength doesn't always look loud. Then she walked past them again. This time, no one laughed. Outside the briefing room, the corridor felt different. Word had spread fast. Soldiers stood straighter. Conversations stopped when she passed. Not because of rank, but because of respect that a medic rushed toward her. Ma'am, you really need, I know, she said softly. Now. As she was led away, the SEAL team remained where they were. One of them finally spoke. We messed up. No one argued. Another exhaled slowly. She could have buried us. She didn't, the commander replied. That's what makes it worse. Later that night, the SEAL who had mocked her sat alone outside the barracks. The desert air was cold. Quiet, he replayed the moment in his head. Her bloodied uniform, her calm voice, the way she had walked past them without needing approval. He understood something now. True strength didn't demand attention. IT earned silence. The next morning, the base woke to change. New protocols. Investigations underway. Quiet corrections that would save lives later. And somewhere in the medical wing, the woman rested at last. Not as a symbol. Not as a legend. But as what she had always been. A soldier who endured. Thank you for watching her brave stories, where courage walks past judgment and strength speaks without shouting. If this story moved you, subscribe for more powerful stories of fearless women. And don't forget to comment below and tell us where you're watching from, your country, city, or wherever you call home. Your support keeps these stories alive.